Namaste, namaste. Thank you for joining me. I am Coach Tim, the mind, body, and spirit coach. Yes. I hope you all are doing well on this Sunday morning. Just want to jump on and kind of share a few things this Sunday morning. Well, I think it's afternoon now. Today, October 27th. Today, I kind of want to get into an emotion. If you all know that I'm always talking to you about emotional energy and generally what you can actually do about it, because a lot of people are just thinking that you're just supposed to let these things run their course and don't really necessarily have an idea of, how you're supposed to actually deal with their, emotions. And this particular emotion I want to kind of get into this morning is one that, even myself, who have done a lot of things to be able to release negative energy, but a lot of, we still have emotions that we still have to deal with in life, and that's called grief. Because we're all gonna lose somebody at some point in time, or, things beyond our control that, people that we love that, they must leave us at some point in time, at least in the physical sense. And so on this day, October 27th, actually it's the anniversary of, 4-year anniversary of my mother's passing. And, that was a time when, just leading up to me, getting to that point to say something about my mother's passing, immediately, I would get this lump in my throat, and I began to, clearly I began to cry. I couldn't even move, just with this simple thought of beginning to express the point that my mother had passed. I could never get it out because, once again, I would begin to cry. And up into that, actually leading back to this point, usually around September, because my mother's birthday is September 11th. And unfortunately, during that time, and back in 2020, we were all kind of dealing with the COVID situation. And I was trying to make sure that my mother stayed, okay. Little did I know, right after her birthday, she went from a person who was really energetic to all of a sudden staying in bed, to 12 o'clock noon. And, other little things that were happening that became alarming. So for about a month and a half, there was just this decline of her health until the inevitable end in October 27th. And so with that being said, usually after 2021, 2022, around this same time, I begin to get these emotions because, to even take it back, it was probably randomly anyway that any particular morning, throughout any time of the year, I get up in the morning. This is before I, started doing the practices that now I actually, that I'm actually sharing with you guys. I would get up and, sometimes you have this thought about, your parent, my mother, and I couldn't call her. I couldn't talk to her. But then, to compound this situation, my father also passed in 2012. And so when my mother passed away, it was more or less like I was really losing, him all over again, because now the thought was kind of, I don't have anyone left. So it was still negative thoughts that was in my mind because of the energy that I was storing, because, if anyone's lost anyone, at first you get the news and you feel like you're numb. Then all of a sudden it hits you and it keeps hitting you. And a lot of people think, they say things like, you never get over it and things like that. But that's where, what I'm leading to here, because we have to get over it. Clearly I'm having this conversation right now, like, as I said, probably, 1 minute into this video, when I start talking about this, my mother, I would have never made it to this point had I not released the energy within myself to be able to address this without being consumed by this energy myself. And a lot of people are walking around thinking, and they're being told these false narratives about carrying around grief, and you're just supposed to carry it as if you're carrying that person around. And the thing is that that's just not the truth. Carrying grief does not bring the person back, and carrying negative energy does nothing but destroy you. And, there are many statistics that show that a person that carries grief, over a year and a half or so begin to develop, higher risk of cancers and everything, that comes along with carrying along a negative energy within yourself. And so with this being said, we have these negatives that we carry within our body that we literally don't know. They're literally stored in the body. The energy of negative energy of grief stores within the heart center. That we call it the heart chakra. Clearly because the person's, can like a person's has a broken heart. And so with that being said, they're not allowed to actually, express themselves as they like to, because they're blocked. This energy is blocked there, and they're not allowed to be fully happy because they're basically consumed with this negative blockage that's within their heart center that they have no idea that you can actually release, which is what I've done, and, we have to understand that, there are many negative energies that are stored within the body that people unconsciously are doing. And I just trying to take it back a bit, if you've tuned into my other prior programs as far as trying to explain how a thought stores these energies in your body, and repetitive thoughts, it just becomes, the body becomes the mind, and now you become your feelings, and your body becomes, begins to think for your mind. You have a 5%, conscious within your brain, but you have 95% that's unconscious, that's stored within these energy centers with your body. And a lot of people, these energy centers, basically manifest them things into people thinking that this is part of your personality. If a person's in fear, well, they look at themselves as a fearful person, but it's just the energy of fear that's stored in your body that you've associated to be your personality. And once you are able to recognize and understand that fear is just an illusion, and you allow yourself to release that energy, you actually, become someone that you actually don't recognize, because you've been living with this fear and associating it with being yourself. And every time, like say for instance, a person, they deal with any kind of sickness, they keep associating themselves with this sickness, then you are bringing that energy to yourself. When in actuality, you want to be able to release this energy and see yourself as being, being yourself, not your condition. A condition doesn't determine who you are. But when you're storing the energies of these situations, then it starts to become who you are, because you're manifesting the energy within your personality. If you become angry about things and you store this in your solar plexus, if you looked at some of my prior videos, then I thought, well, you store this, and kind of taking it back to how I explained how it stores in your body. It starts with the thought, and that neurological network. You have another thought, and it builds a neurological network, and you have another thought, and it finds another neurological network, and now we get to a point where it gets to your frontal lobe, and the frontal lobe is the part of your brain where it makes the things you see on the outside become real to you on the inside. And so you begin to build this picture of being an angry person. Well, in this case, you call yourself, I'm in grief. You keep telling yourself, I'm grieving. And so you see yourself as a person who's grieving, mourning. And so you accept this as your personality, and you don't object to this, and you don't, you kind of look at it and you, okay, yeah, I'm fine with this. You let that thought continue to fester within your mind. Well, now those, there's neurons, begin to actually start transmitting what we call neurotransmitters to start communicating to those neurons, to send this message to basically to your limbic brain and within your autonomic nervous system, and it releases what's called neuropeptides. Neuropeptides are your emotional molecule. Your emotional molecule now signals the appropriate energy center, which in this case, it will be the heart, if we're talking about grief. And so as soon as you have this thought, this energy, it sends it to this energy center, and all of a sudden you get this, you get this lump in your throat, and because it's set that energy that this is the emotion that you're feeling. And so you continue to have this thought and continue to what we call thinking, feeling. Now all of a sudden it becomes stored right here in your heart, because it basically hardwires in the brain and starts to store within the body. So we get to a situation where now you have yourself, the body becomes the mind, as we say, where the body is stored here. So it becomes unconscious. It's like unconscious, like you get into your car to drive a car. You don't have to think about it. It just happens, and all you have to do is have a similar thought. It don't have to be the same thought, just a similar thought. You could see someone grieving on TV and now your heart goes out to them because you're associating with that energy that they have within themselves. And so it brings you back to that reality that you have stored within your body. And so this is when you say something touches you, Well, it's touching you on an energetic level. And it's not even your reality at the time, but you're making it your reality because you've stored that reality within you. And so, again, what we call this is, it comes thinking, feeling, it becomes something that's stored to your body. And now you associate yourself as this person. And now you're telling yourself to go along with this thought that I'm supposed to. So now you keep reinforcing this to now, you have people saying they've been in grief for 15, 20 years. And how much sicknesses and immune system problems have you had over those years? Because it shuts your body down. Your body's not supposed to operate in this negative state. So, but we are allowed to. The thing is, don't get me wrong, we need to process these emotions, but then we have to allow ourselves to release these emotions. See, that's the difference. You don't want to suppress them and avoid them. You want to recognize them. There is a grieving time. We go a few months or so, but now we have to start putting in our brain that we need to come out of this. But this is where I come in, because it's easy to say you want to come out of this, but you have no idea how to. See, most people don't understand that this stuff is being stored to their body, and they just think that I'm just going to change my thinking, and it'll eventually change my body. And that's true to a degree. But the thing is, remember, that's the 5% that you're fighting against. So, just like people, I use an example of people, in my profession of personal training that I have been involved with over 25 years. People are habitually vibe up. They want to be, I want to get in shape. But then if they still have that negative energy that's stored within their sacral area of low self-worth and drive, and the drive actually stored in the solar plexus, they still see themselves as a lazy person instead of seeing themselves and letting that energy go and seeing themselves being who they want to be. So that's eventually they keep fighting against it until all it takes is someone to come around them that's negative to offer them something, some food they shouldn't eat, or get you to miss a workout or something, because you still haven't allowed that energy to let go. You're still fighting against it instead of allowing it to be released and becoming who you want to be. And so it's, with all these models, I don't care whether it's mental health models or I've used, within personal training, we use, behavior models. It's basically similar to the same thing, because you're trying to change the person's behavior. But you can't change it when a person's behavior is stored within their body. These models don't necessarily allow you, it thinks it's allowing you to release these things, even though it doesn't necessarily know it's doing this. The steps are supposed to allow you to go through things to allow these behaviors to change, but the behavior is actually stored within your body. If you're still associating with this situation, then it's still there. You're just suppressing it, or you may put yourself in situations to try to avoid it, but it's still right there. It's, you're not let it go. And so being able to let it go comes with the things that I do, because everything is energy. At the end of the day, it's all your emotional energy. And so until you understand that everything, the language that you use, I keep the same energy, I feel this person's energy, whatever, you always talking about energy, because that's what we are. Everything, your thoughts, your emotions, everything is energy, and you have to deal with it on an energetic level. Just simply talking about things, yes, that's the physical part, but there are more components to us as beings. We only see our physical third dimensional selves, but we have an energetic spiritual body that goes totally unattended, and is actually the root of all suffering, but it's also profitable when people do not know these things and they can self-heal themselves and not need medications, and it actually don't work, especially a person who's in grief, who, all of a sudden this stuff goes into depression, because what you do, when you start going into, you're not releasing dopamine within the brain, which is the feel-good hormone. And so now your body not been producing, because you've been in such a depressed, sad state and grief for so long that it starts producing it. So now you start having situations that develop like, Parkinson's and schizophrenia, all these things come from lack of dopamine to the thalamus of the brain. All of these things, but it started at an energetic level, because the energy was first stored to not allow the person's body to function properly. So now all of a sudden you got one situation that basically spouting everything, but the bottom line is like stress. All these things are stress on the body, and everyone knows stress kills, but they don't really necessarily know how. And so that's what I'm here for, to allow people to understand that I couldn't possibly stand here and have this conversation with you right now, if I wasn't necessarily doing the things that I know to be true. And I've allowed many others that I'm working with right now to do the same. But within certain communities, that I've come from, there's a lot of falsehoods about how they deal with their emotions and how to deal with your grief. And And then to understand this too, when you're grief about your emotions as far as someone loved one, we have to understand this, and this really what helped me once I got into the spiritual world, is that our spirit is everlasting. So what does that mean? We have to stop looking at things from a religious standpoint of the hell and brimstone of your fire, of your body, you dying forever, and someone dying and burning in hell, when actuality, if someone's actually gonna pay attention to what's being said, even within the Bible that some people carry, the spirit is within you and the spiritual energy. So energy cannot burn. Energy, and actually your Bible says your spirit is everlasting, but you listen to man tell you that your mortal body, that's the end of your life. But it's not. Our people live on within spirit. Their physical body just expired, but their spirit still lives with us. I know there are times when I can say something, I hear my mother. There are other times when I can say something, yes, that's Charles, But the thing about it is, when you go back and look at your Bible and stop looking at things that keep people basically in these emotional states, to keep people in need and keep people in living in falsehoods, and stop looking at yourself as a physical being and look at yourself as a spiritual being, and then you understand the loved ones that we've lost, their spirits just left their body, but they're still in existence, so they're not gone. So let them celebrate their life and their energy instead of celebrating, or basically not a celebration of anything when you're talking about death. It's the end, but we don't end. We just evolve. So, a lot of this comes back, it's a lot of religious based in these things, and, to go along with, other things that profit from people not actually knowing the truth about themselves and their existence. So we clearly take it negatively, which at the end of the day, if everyone really knows, to repent your actual thoughts and actually change your thoughts from negative to positive, which is what repentance actually means. It means changing your negative ways to positive. That means your thoughts. And then you can conceive these things in a totally different perspective of a spirit rather than a mortal that sees limited existence with itself and around them. So with that being said, I just want to jump on for a bit. I don't want to make it too long. Just something to think about, and know that myself, I'm here to actually help someone, because at the end of the day, these are things that you can actually do for yourself, and you can be free for yourself to actually live the life you want to live. I mean, financially, physically, whatever, it's all held back by your negative thoughts. And that's what people have to understand, that negative thoughts, people think the world is supposed to be negative, like they can't conceive that you're not supposed to be thinking negatively because the world is so negative. But that's the trick of the world. And I would like people to actually, I love talking about this, so I can explain it even better, because as you continue to get more understanding, then you get more understanding about knowing thyself, and then you're able to heal thyself and live your best life that actually the spiritual energy that created us intended us to be, living in abundance, prosperity, health, happiness, love, success, all of these things that come along with being an actual spiritual being, not the fakehood of religion that has put people in a situation where they basically live in despair, because now that you need someone to comfort you in basically something that you're not, that's actually a lie about yourself. These things, everything you've been told about has been lies about yourself to begin with, from the time the things you look at in your religion to the things you follow right now. Been told to you since you were a kid. Begin to question these things and begin to undress some of the things and get your own knowledge about yourself. So with that being said, for anyone who like to reach out and talk about it more, or like is in the area, North Carolina area, like a free consultation, or actually, I do things on Zoom, so actually around the country, feel free to email me at the Energy Healing Network, or feel free to text me at 919-520-7818. And the email again is energyhealingnetwork@gmail.com. Sorry. So definitely, I'd like to hear from you guys. Find me on Facebook, shoot me a message, because I would like to keep this dialogue, because at the end of the day, it's about, if we want to find peace on this earth, we have to release the negativity within ourselves and begin to live with peace within ourselves. That's where peace begins. But it begins with each individual taking the step within themselves then they can exude this out into the world, and we all become free, living in peace, health, and harmony. So with that being said, enjoy your Sunday afternoon. Namaste to y'all. The light in me honors the light in you. And I'll be back to see you guys soon.